My son called me from the army base, his voice shaking in a way I'd never heard before. Mom, I just saw you. What are you talking about, Chitty? I'm at home. That's what I thought too, but I'm standing in the medical wing right now, and I just watched you walk into the operating room. My blood went cold. Chitty, that's impossible. I haven't left the house all day. His breath hitched. Then who did I just see wearing your face? Who's been coming to the base for the past 6 months, calling herself Amara Okonkwo, using your credentials, treating soldiers? Mom, who is pretending to be you? I opened my mouth to answer, but no words came out. Because in that moment, I heard the front door unlock. Footsteps. Confident. Familiar. My husband's voice calling out cheerfully from the hallway. Amara, I'm home early. But there was another voice with him. A woman's laugh. Light. Delicate. And then I heard her say the words that would shatter my world. I hope she hasn't been waiting long. We need to tell her eventually, Obi. If you're watching this story, please, do me a favor, like this video and subscribe to Aunty Mea's voice. Leave a comment telling me where you're watching from, because what I'm about to tell you is a story of betrayal so deep, so calculated, that you won't believe one woman could steal another's entire existence. But she did. And this is how I took it all back. It started on an ordinary Tuesday morning. I was folding laundry in the living room, the kind of mindless task that fills the quiet hours when you're a wife who gave up her nursing career to build a home. 25 years of marriage. 25 years of being Obi Okonkwo's faithful wife, Chitty's devoted mother. I had just placed Obi's shirts in neat stacks when my phone rang. The screen showed Chitty's name, and my heart warmed instantly. My boy. My soldier. Serving his country with the same discipline and honor I'd raised him with. Chitty, my love. I answered, smiling. Is everything all right? There was a pause. Too long. Too heavy. Mom. His voice cracked. Mom, I need you to tell me the truth about something. I straightened, the laundry forgotten. What is it? Are you hurt? No, I'm confused. Mom, were you at the base today? I laughed, though unease prickled at the back of my neck. Chitty, you know I haven't been to the base in over a year. Not since your commissioning ceremony. Why would you ask that? Because I saw you. His words came faster now, desperate. I saw you walk into the medical facility. I called out to you, but you didn't turn around. I ran after you, but by the time I got inside, you'd gone into the restricted area. When I asked the nurse at the desk, she said, "Oh, Mrs. Okonkwo just arrived. She's prepping for surgery." The room tilted. Chitty, that's not possible. I know. His frustration bled through the phone. That's why I called Dad. I thought maybe you'd surprised us, maybe you'd gotten your license reinstated and didn't tell me. But when I called him, he said you were home. He said you'd been home all morning. My mouth went dry. And what did your father say when you told him what you saw? Another pause. This one felt like a chasm opening beneath my feet. He got angry, Mom. He told me I was mistaken, that I was working too hard, that I needed to stop imagining things. Then he hung up on me. The front door opened. I heard it before I could process what Chitty had just told me. The familiar creak of hinges, the soft thud of the door closing. Obi's footsteps in the hallway. But there was something different this time. He wasn't alone. Chitty, I have to go. I whispered into the phone, my hand trembling. Mom, wait. Don't hang up. Something's not right. I'm coming home. I'm requesting emergency leave right now. Chitty, no. You can't just. I'm coming home, Mom. His voice was steel now, the voice of a soldier who'd made a decision. Don't do anything until I get there. Promise me. I promise. But even as I said it, I knew it was a lie. Because Obi's voice was getting closer, and with it, that other voice. That woman's voice. Soft. Familiar in a way that made my skin crawl. Amara? Obi called from the hallway. Are you home? I stood frozen, the phone still pressed to my ear even though Chitty had already hung up. My heart hammered against my ribs. For a moment, I considered staying silent. Pretending I wasn't there. But that would only delay the inevitable. I'm in the living room. I called back, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. Obi appeared in the doorway. He looked the same as he had this morning when he'd kissed my forehead and told me he'd be late tonight. Same press suit. Same cologne. Same wedding ring on his finger. But his eyes held something I'd never seen before. Guilt. And beneath it, something colder. Resignation. Behind him, she stepped into view. I had never seen her before, and yet I knew exactly who she was. The woman was tall, elegant, wearing a cream-colored dress that hugged her figure. Her hair was styled in soft waves that framed a face that was not quite like mine, but close enough. Same brown skin tone. Same general build. Same age, perhaps. But her eyes were sharper. Calculating. She smiled at me. It was the smile of someone who'd already won. Amara. Obi said my name like an apology. We need to talk. I couldn't move. Couldn't speak. My eyes went from him to her, then back to him. The laundry basket at my feet suddenly felt like the only real thing in the room. I wanted to grab it. To hold on to something solid. Something that made sense. Who is she? The words came out flat. Empty. Obi opened his mouth, but the woman spoke first. My name is Zara. Her voice was smooth. Practiced. I'm sorry we're meeting like this. I wanted it to be different. I stared at her. Wanted it to be different. As if there was a good way to meet the woman who was standing in my living room, next to my husband, looking at me like I was the intruder. Obi stepped forward, his hands raised like he was approaching a frightened animal. Amara, please. Sit down. Let's talk about this calmly. Calmly. I repeated the word, tasting its bitterness. My son just called me from the army base. He told me he saw me there. In the medical facility. But I'm here. I've been here all morning. All week. All year. Zara's smile faltered. Just for a second. But I saw it. Obi's jaw tightened. That's part of what we need to discuss. Part of what we need to discuss? My voice rose despite myself. My son saw someone pretending to be me, and you want to discuss it calmly? She wasn't pretending. Obi's words hit like a slap. She was helping. Helping? I looked between them, my mind struggling to piece together what he was saying. Helping with what? Zara stepped forward, her expression softening into something that might have been sympathy if it weren't so condescending. Mrs. Okonkwo, Amara, I know this is difficult. But you have to understand. The base needed a medical professional. Your credentials were just sitting there unused. Obi thought. You used my credentials? The words came out as a whisper, but they echoed in my skull like thunder. You've been using my nursing license? Obi's face hardened. You weren't using it. You gave up your career. You chose to stay home. I gave it up to raise our son. To support you. To build this family. And I'm grateful for that. His tone was flat now. Clinical. But life moved on, Amara. The world didn't stop because you decided to play house. Play house? 25 years. 25 years of cooking his meals, washing his clothes, managing his home, raising his child. And he called it playing house. My legs felt weak. I sank onto the arm of the sofa, my hand gripping the fabric to keep from falling. How long? I asked, looking at Zara. How long have you been pretending to be me? She glanced at Obi before answering. 6 months. 6 months. Half a year of someone else living my life. Using my name. My credentials. My identity. And the base. They just accepted you? They didn't question it? Zara's smile returned, sharper this time. Why would they? I had all the proper documentation. Your license. Your certifications. Your identification. As far as they were concerned, I was you. The room spun. I pressed my palm against my temple, trying to make sense of it. How did you get my documents? Obi looked away. Obi. I stood, my voice dropping to something dangerous. How did she get my documents? He met my eyes then, and I saw it. The truth I'd been too blind to see. Too trusting to question. I gave them to her. The words hung in the air between us. Simple. Devastating. Final. I gave them to her. My husband. The man I'd built my entire adult life around. The man I'd sacrificed my career for, my dreams for, my identity for. He'd given my identity to another woman. Why? The question came out broken. Why would you do this? Zara answered before he could. Because he loves me. I looked at her. Really looked at her. And I saw it now. The way she stood next to him. The way her hand rested lightly on his arm. The way he leaned toward her, almost imperceptibly, like a plant turning toward the sun. How long? I asked again, but this time the question was different. How long have you two been together? 3 years. Obi said it like he was reporting the weather. 3 years, Amara. 3 years. While I was making his breakfast. While I was attending parent-teacher conferences alone because he was always working late. While I was celebrating our anniversaries with romantic dinners I'd cooked myself because he said restaurants were too crowded. He'd been with her. Does Chidi know? My voice cracked on my son's name. No. Obi's expression shifted, something almost like panic flashing across his face. And he doesn't need to know. This doesn't have to affect him. I laughed. It was a horrible sound, bitter and sharp. Doesn't have to affect him? His mother's identity has been stolen. His father is standing in our living room with his mistress. And you think this won't affect him? We can handle this like adults. Obi's voice took on that authoritative tone he used when he wanted to end an argument. We can arrange a quiet separation. You'll be taken care of financially. The house is paid off. You can stay here or what? I interrupted, my anger finally breaking through the shock. Or move out so you can move her in. Zara shifted uncomfortably, but she didn't leave. Didn't have the decency to give us privacy. Amara, be reasonable. Obi stepped closer, but I backed away. We've grown apart. You have to have felt it too. We're not the same people we were 25 years ago. No. I shook my head, tears burning behind my eyes but refusing to fall. I'm not the same person I was 25 years ago. I gave up everything to become the person you needed. But you? You're exactly who you've always been. Selfish. Calculating. And apparently a liar. His face hardened. I tried to make this work. I tried to be patient. But you let yourself go, Amara. You stopped caring about your appearance. Your career. Yourself. You became invisible. Invisible. The words sliced through me, finding every insecurity I'd buried, every moment I'd looked in the mirror and wondered when I'd stopped recognizing myself. I became invisible. I repeated slowly. Because I was too busy making sure you were visible. Making sure you had clean clothes for your important meetings. Making sure you had home-cooked meals when you were too tired to go out. Making sure our son had a mother present at every school event, every doctor's appointment, every moment of his life that mattered. That was your choice. Obi's voice was cold now. I never asked you to sacrifice your career. You didn't have to ask. I shouted, and Zara actually flinched. You just expected it. When Chidi was sick with pneumonia and someone had to stay home for 3 weeks, who did it? When your mother needed round-the-clock care before she died, who gave it? When you got that promotion and had to travel for 6 months, who held down the home? Obi said nothing. I made myself invisible so you could shine. My voice broke, but I pushed through. And now you're punishing me for it. I'm not punishing you. His tone softened, but it felt like pity, and pity was somehow worse than anger. I'm just moving on. And I think it's time you did too. Moving on. As if 25 years could be discarded like old furniture. As if I was something to be replaced. I looked at Zara again. She was younger than me, maybe by 5 years. Beautiful in the way that required time and money, things I hadn't had because I'd been too busy raising a child and managing a household. Her nails were manicured. Her skin glowed. Her clothes were designer. She was everything I might have been if I hadn't given it all up. And that's when I understood. Obi hadn't fallen out of love with me. He'd fallen out of love with what I'd become. The sacrifice I'd made for our family had turned me into someone he could no longer see. I was invisible because I'd made him visible. You need to leave. I said it quietly, but there was steel in my voice now. Both of you. Get out of my house. Amara, Obi started, but I held up my hand. This is my house. My name is on the deed alongside yours. I've earned every inch of it. So unless you want me to call the police and report that your girlfriend has been committing identity fraud and medical malpractice, I suggest you both leave. Now. Zara's face went pale. Identity fraud? I wasn't. You used my credentials to practice medicine. My voice was steady now, each word measured. You represented yourself as me to military personnel. That's identity theft. And unless you actually have a nursing license of your own, which I'm guessing you don't, that's also practicing medicine without a license. Both of which are federal crimes. Obi stepped between us. Amara, don't be rash. Think about what you're doing. I am thinking. For the first time in years, I'm thinking clearly. I looked at him, this man I'd loved for half my life, and felt nothing but cold clarity. You have 1 hour to pack a bag and leave. After that, I'm calling my son and telling him everything. And then I'm calling the military police. You wouldn't. Obi's eyes widened. You'd destroy Chitty's career. Having his mother's identity stolen by his father's mistress? The scandal would be your fault. Not mine. I stepped forward, and he actually backed up. You did this, Obi. You brought her into our lives. You gave her my identity. You betrayed our son. So don't you dare try to make me responsible for the consequences of your choices. For a long moment, nobody moved. The house was silent except for the ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner, the one I'd found at an estate sale and lovingly restored. Another piece of me that had been absorbed into this home, into this life, into this marriage. Obi looked at Zara, some wordless communication passing between them. Then he turned back to me. Fine. We'll go. But this isn't over, Amara. We need to discuss the practical matters. The separation. The finances. Chitty. You're right. I nodded. This isn't over. But it's over for today. Get out. He hesitated, then walked past me toward the stairs. Zara followed, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor I'd polished just yesterday. I listened to them move through the second floor, opening drawers, shuffling through the closet. The sounds of my life being divided. I stayed in the living room, standing exactly where I'd been when they'd walked in. The laundry basket was still at my feet. Obi's shirts still neatly folded. I'd been in the middle of my life, and in 20 minutes, it had ended. When they came back down, Obi was carrying a suitcase. Zara had a bag over her shoulder, one of mine, I noticed distantly. They paused at the door. I'm sorry, Obi said, and maybe he even meant it. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did. I met his eyes. And what's worse, you let her steal my face. My name. My career. You let her become me while you were busy making me disappear. He opened his mouth, closed it again. Then he left, Zara trailing behind him like a shadow. The door closed. The house fell silent. I stood there for a long moment, waiting to fall apart. Waiting for the tears, the breakdown, the collapse that surely had to come after something like this. But I didn't fall apart. Instead, I walked to the window and watched Obi's car pull out of the driveway. Watched it disappear down the street. Watched my 25-year marriage drive away, with another woman in the passenger seat. Then I picked up my phone. My hands were steady as I dialed. Chitty answered on the first ring. Mom? Are you okay? What happened? Dad called me and said, your father doesn't get to control this narrative. I cut him off gently. I need you to listen carefully, and I need you to not interrupt until I'm finished. Can you do that for me? There was a pause. Then, in a small voice that reminded me of the little boy he'd once been, yes, ma'am. I took a breath and began to talk. I told him everything. The affair. The identity theft. The betrayal. And as I spoke, something inside me hardened. Crystallized. Became something new. I had been invisible. But invisible things can move through the world unseen. Invisible things can gather information. Build strength. Strike when least expected. Obi and Zara thought they'd erased me. They had no idea they'd actually set me free. When I finished talking, Chitty was silent for a long moment. Then I heard a sound that broke through the ice forming around my heart. My son was crying. Mom. His voice was thick with tears and rage. I'm coming home. I'm getting on the next transport. I'll be there tomorrow morning. Okay, I said softly. Okay, baby. Come home. I love you, Mom. You hear me? I love you, and I'm going to fix this. I know you do. But Chitty, this isn't for you to fix. This is mine to handle. You can't do this alone. I smiled, though he couldn't see it. Maybe not. But I'm not the same woman I was this morning. Your father made a mistake when he tried to make me disappear. What are you going to do? I looked around the living room. At the life I'd built. The home I'd made. The identity I'd sacrificed. I'm going to take it all back. Every single piece. The night after Obi left, I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room with every light off, watching shadows move across the walls as cars passed outside. The house felt different now. Emptier. But also somehow more mine than it had been in years. I kept replaying the conversation. Zara's smile. Obi's coldness. The way he'd said invisible like it was a fact, not an insult. Like I'd chosen to fade away. Maybe I had. At 3 in the morning, I got up and walked through every room. I looked at everything with new eyes. The curtains I'd sewn by hand. The garden I'd planted and tended for 15 years. The photos on the walls, Chitty's school pictures, family vacations, anniversary dinners where I'd smiled for the camera while Obi checked his phone. In our bedroom, my bedroom now, I opened Obi's closet. He'd taken the essentials, but left most of his clothes. I pulled out a suit jacket, the expensive one he wore to important meetings. I searched the pockets, not knowing what I was looking for. I found a receipt. Dinner at Le Jardin, an upscale French restaurant downtown. 2 entrees. Wine. Dessert. The date was our anniversary. 6 months ago. He'd told me he was working late. I'd eaten alone, convincing myself it didn't matter because marriage was about more than romantic dinners. Marriage was about partnership. Commitment. Sacrifice. I'd eaten reheated pasta while he'd fed her creme brulee. I should have cried then. Should have broken down. But my eyes stayed dry. My hands stayed steady. Something cold and sharp was forming inside me, and tears felt like a luxury I could no longer afford. I kept searching. In the back of his drawer, hidden under old tax documents, I found more. Hotel receipts. Jewelry purchases I'd never received. Plane tickets to cities he'd supposedly traveled to for business, but the tickets were for 2. 3 years, he'd said. 3 years of lies stacked neatly in a drawer, waiting to be found. I gathered everything and spread it across the bed. Evidence of a double life. But evidence wasn't enough. I needed to understand the scope of what Zara had done at the military base. If she'd been using my credentials for 6 months, treating soldiers, making medical decisions in my name. My phone buzzed. A text from Chitty, landing at 0600. Don't do anything until I get there. Please. I typed back, I'm just gathering information. I promise. But even as I sent it, I knew I was lying. I wasn't just gathering information. I was planning. I opened my laptop and started searching. It took me less than 10 minutes to find the military base's medical facility website. There, under staff physicians and nurses, was a photo. My breath caught. It was Zara, but the caption read, Amara Okonkwo, RN, specialized in emergency medicine and trauma care. My face. Well, not my face, but close enough that anyone who'd only seen photos of me would believe it. She'd styled her hair the same way I used to wear mine, before I'd stopped caring about such things. Same glasses. Same smile. She hadn't just stolen my credentials. She'd stolen my appearance. I clicked through the staff directory and found more. Articles about my work at the base. A commendation for my quick thinking during a training accident. Testimonials from soldiers I'd never met, thanking me for saving their lives. She'd built an entire career on my name. And she'd done it well. That should have made me angrier. Instead, I felt something else. Curiosity. Because if she was good at this, if she was actually helping people, then how had no one caught on? How had the military, with all its background checks and protocols, not noticed the switch? Unless someone had helped her. Someone with access. Someone with authority. I grabbed my phone and called the one person who might have answers. My former supervisor from 15 years ago, nurse practitioner Adiz Nwosu. We'd kept in touch over the years, occasional coffee dates and holiday cards. She'd been disappointed when I'd left nursing, but she'd understood. It rang 4 times before she answered, her voice groggy. Amara? Do you know what time it is? Ada, I need your help. Something's happened. The sleep cleared from her voice immediately. What's wrong? Are you hurt? Not physically. I took a breath. Ada, is my nursing license still active? There was a pause. Of course it is. You maintained your continuing education credits, remember? You always said you might go back someday. My stomach dropped. So anyone with my license number could technically practice? Legally? No. You'd need current employment verification, malpractice insurance, facility credentials. Why are you asking this? Because someone's been using my license to practice at the Kaduna military base. For 6 months. Ada was silent for a long moment. That's not possible. The base has strict protocols. They would have verified. My husband gave her my documents. Ada, his mistress, has been pretending to be me. Jesus Christ. Another pause. Amara, if what you're saying is true, this is serious. Identity theft, fraud, unauthorized medical practice, these are federal crimes. But more than that, if she's made any mistakes, if any patients have been harmed, you could be held liable. The room tilted. What? Your license. Your name. Your credentials. Until proven otherwise, you're responsible for every medical decision she's made. I sank onto the bed, the receipts scattering around me. But I haven't been there. I haven't treated anyone. You'll need to prove that. Ada's voice was gentle but firm. And you'll need to do it fast, before this gets worse. Do you have a lawyer? Not yet. Get one. Today. And Amara? Be careful. If your husband was involved in this, he's not going to let you expose it without a fight. We said goodbye, and I sat in the darkness, processing. I wasn't just the victim here. I was potentially the scapegoat. Every surgery Zara had performed, every diagnosis she'd made, every prescription she'd written, it was all in my name. If anything had gone wrong, I would pay the price. The sun was starting to rise when I heard a car in the driveway. I went to the window and saw a military vehicle. Chitty stepped out, still in uniform, his face drawn with exhaustion and rage. I met him at the door. He wrapped me in a hug so tight I could barely breathe, and for the first time since Obi had walked out, I felt the tears start to come. I'm sorry, Mom. He pulled back, his eyes red. I'm so sorry I didn't see it. I should have known something was wrong. How could you have known? I wiped my eyes. You were doing your job. Being the man I raised you to be. He shook his head. I saw her, Mom. I saw her at the base, and I thought it was you. I waved at her once, a few months ago, and she just walked past me. Like she didn't recognize me. I thought maybe you were upset with me about something. I called Dad to ask if you were okay, and he said you were fine, just stressed. My heart broke for him. Oh, Chitty. She walked past her own son. His voice cracked. What kind of person does that? The kind who's so focused on the lie that she forgets to maintain it. I led him inside, into the kitchen. I started making coffee, needing something normal to do with my hands. Chitty, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Anything. At the base, in the medical facility, has there been any problems? Any incidents where someone was hurt or treatment went wrong? His expression shifted. Why? Because I just found out that if Zara made any mistakes, I'm legally responsible. My license. My liability. Chitty's face went pale. He sat down heavily at the kitchen table. There was an incident. About 3 weeks ago. Tell me. He ran a hand over his face. A training exercise went wrong. Live ammunition instead of blanks. Someone in logistics messed up. 3 soldiers were hit. One of them was my best friend, Emeka Adebayo. My hands stilled on the coffee pot. Was he badly hurt? He almost died. Chitty's voice went flat. He took a round to the chest, missed his heart by inches. The medic on site couldn't stabilize him. They rushed him to the facility, and she was there. The nurse everyone thought was you. What happened? She panicked. Chitty looked up at me, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Fear. Real, visceral fear. She didn't know what to do. She was shouting for help, calling for a doctor, but the doctor was in surgery with the other 2 casualties. Emeka was bleeding out, and she just stood there. How did he survive? Another nurse, an older woman, maybe in her 50s, pushed her aside and took over. She stabilized him, got him into surgery. Saved his life. Chitty's hands clenched on the table. Later, I heard staff talking. They said it was strange how rattled Nurse Okonkwo had been, how she'd seemed to forget basic trauma protocols. But they chalked it up to shock, said even experienced nurses can freeze in crisis situations. But it wasn't shock. I said quietly. It was incompetence. Mom, if you'd been there, Emeka would be dead. Chitty looked at me. The real you would have known what to do. You specialized in emergency medicine. But she didn't. She doesn't have the training. The coffee maker beeped, but neither of us moved. I need to see him. I said. Emeka. I need to talk to him. He's still recovering. They've got him in the medical wing under observation. Chitty's jaw tightened. Mom, what are you thinking? I'm thinking that Zara nearly killed your best friend. And I'm thinking that there might be other cases, other mistakes she's made that I don't know about yet. I turned to face him. I need to go to the base. I need to see the facility, talk to the staff, review medical records. They won't let you in. You're not active duty, and without current facility credentials. What if I had someone on the inside? Someone with access who could help me investigate? Chitty met my eyes. I could lose my commission for this. If they find out I helped you access restricted areas, violated protocol. I won't let that happen. I promise you, if this goes wrong, I'll take full responsibility. He studied me for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay, but we do this smart. No rushing in. We gather evidence, document everything, and when we have enough, we bring it to the proper authorities. Agreed. I poured us both coffee, my mind already racing ahead. Who's the commanding officer at the medical facility? Colonel Nandi Okafor. He's been there for 20 years. Very by the book, but fair. If we bring him solid evidence, he'll listen. And the nurse who saved Emeka? Lieutenant Chioma Okeke. She's been in the military for 30 years. Seen everything. Chitty took his coffee, warming his hands on the mug. She was the one who questioned your credentials, actually. What do you mean? After the incident with Emeka, she pulled me aside. Asked me when you'd gotten rehired at the base. Said she'd worked with you years ago, before I was born, and she didn't remember you looking quite like that. I told her it had been 15 years, people change. But she didn't seem convinced. Hope flickered in my chest. We need to talk to her. We will. But first, you need rest. Chitty stood up, setting his mug down. You've been up all night. I can see it on your face. I'm fine. Mom. He put his hand on my shoulder. You've had your entire life turned upside down in less than 24 hours. You're not fine. And I need you sharp for what's coming. So please, go sleep for a few hours. I'll keep watch. I wanted to argue. Wanted to tell him I couldn't sleep, couldn't waste time when there was so much to do. But my body was betraying me, exhaustion pulling at my bones. Just a few hours. I agreed. Then we go to the base. I went upstairs to the guest room. I couldn't face the master bedroom yet, and lay down. The morning sun streamed through the window, and I thought there was no way I'd be able to sleep. But exhaustion won. I closed my eyes and fell into darkness. I woke to voices downstairs. Loud voices. Angry voices. I sat up, disoriented. The clock said 2 p.m. I'd slept for nearly 6 hours. The voices got louder. I recognized Chitty's, tight with fury. And then another voice. Obi's. I got up and went to the stairs, staying just out of sight. You have no right to be here. Chitty was saying. You left. You chose her over Mom. I came to talk to your mother. Obi's voice was strained, trying for authority but missing it. To discuss the separation arrangements. This is still my house too. Not anymore. Chitty's voice was ice. Mom made herself clear. You're not welcome here. Don't tell me where I'm welcome in my own home, boy. A pause. Then Chitty's voice, deadly quiet. Don't call me boy. I'm not your boy anymore. You lost that right when you betrayed my mother. There was a sound like a chair scraping. You're being dramatic. This is between me and your mother. It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with me. Chitty's voice cracked. You let your mistress steal Mom's identity. She almost killed my best friend because she doesn't know what the hell she's doing. And you think this has nothing to do with me? Silence. What did you say? Obi's voice had changed. Gone sharp. Emeka. Remember him? My friend since basic training? Your girlfriend nearly let him bleed out 3 weeks ago because she panicked. Because she doesn't have the training or experience to do the job she's pretending to do. That was an unfortunate incident, but nothing, Chitty shouted. She's practicing medicine illegally, Dad. Using Mom's credentials. And when we expose her, and we will expose her, you're going to be charged as an accessory. Is that what this is about? Obi's voice turned cold. Your mother's put you up to some kind of revenge scheme? This isn't revenge. It's justice. I couldn't stay hidden anymore. I walked down the stairs, and both men turned to look at me. Obi's expression shifted when he saw me. For just a moment, I saw something in his eyes. Regret, maybe. Or guilt. But it was gone as quickly as it had appeared. Amara. He cleared his throat. We need to talk. Rationally. Without threats or accusations. You want to talk rationally? I stopped at the bottom of the stairs. Fine. Let's talk about how you committed multiple federal crimes. Identity theft. Fraud. Aiding and abetting unauthorized medical practice. Or do those count as accusations? His jaw tightened. I was trying to help Zara. She needed work, needed a fresh start. I didn't think. You didn't think I'd find out. I moved closer. You didn't think our son would notice. You didn't think there would be consequences. There don't have to be consequences. Obi's tone turned almost pleading. Amara, we can fix this quietly. I'll convince Zara to stop using your credentials. She'll leave the base. We'll arrange a clean separation, divide the assets fairly. No one has to know the details. Emeka almost died. That was an accident. A training mishap. It had nothing to do with. It had everything to do with her incompetence. I was shouting now, months of suppressed anger finally breaking free. She didn't know how to handle a trauma case because she's not a real nurse. She froze while a soldier bled out. And you're trying to cover it up. I'm trying to protect this family. Obi shouted back. Do you have any idea what happens if this comes out? The scandal? The investigation? It won't just destroy Zara and me. It'll destroy you too. Your reputation. Your license. Your son's career. Don't you dare. Chitty stepped between us. Don't you dare try to manipulate her with me. Obi looked at his son, and something in his face crumpled. Chitty, please. I made mistakes. I know that. But I'm still your father. No. Chitty's voice was steady. A father protects his family. You betrayed it. There's a difference. The silence that followed was heavy enough to suffocate. Obi turned back to me. One last time, Amara. Please. Can we handle this privately? For Chitty's sake, if not for mine? I looked at this man I'd spent 25 years with. This man I'd built a life around. And I felt nothing but cold clarity. You came here to protect yourself. Not me. Not Chitty. Yourself. I walked to the door and opened it. The answer is no. Now get out of my house. Amara. Out. Or I call the police right now and report everything. For a moment, I thought he might refuse. Might try one more manipulation. But something in my face must have convinced him I was serious. He walked to the door, paused. You'll regret this. Maybe. I met his eyes. But at least I'll regret something I chose to do, instead of something that was done to me. He left. The door closed behind him. Chitty let out a long breath. That went well. Despite everything, I almost smiled. We need to move faster. If Obi's scared enough to come here, he's scared enough to warn Zara. They'll start covering their tracks. Then we go to the base now. Chitty pulled out his phone. I'll call Lieutenant Okeke, see if she'll meet with us off the record. And I need to call Ada back. See if she can help me access my medical records, find out what Zara's been doing in my name. We split up, Chitty going into the living room while I went back upstairs. I called Ada and explained the situation, Emeka's near death, Obi's visit, the urgency. I can get you the records. Ada said. But Amara, you need to be prepared. If she's made more mistakes, if there are other incidents you don't know about. I know. I'll be liable. Not just liable. You could lose your license permanently. Face criminal charges. Even if you prove you weren't there, the licensing board might still hold you responsible for not securing your credentials properly. The floor felt unsteady beneath me. So I'm trapped. If I expose her, I lose everything. If I don't, soldiers keep getting hurt, and I'm still responsible. Not trapped. Ada's voice was firm. Fighting. You gather evidence, you prove systematic fraud, and you make sure everyone knows you're the victim here too. But you have to be smart about it. Document everything. Get witness statements. Build an airtight case. How long will that take? If you're thorough? A week, maybe 2. I don't have 2 weeks. If Obi warns Zara, she could disappear. Destroy evidence. I need to move now. Then you'd better pray you find something concrete at that base. Because once you make an accusation, you can't take it back. We hung up, and I sat on the edge of the bed, thinking. Ada was right. I needed to be strategic. But strategy took time, and time was a luxury I didn't have. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. This is Lieutenant Chioma Okeke. Your son reached out. I can meet you at 1800 hours. There's a coffee shop off base, Mom and Ngozi's kitchen. Come alone. I showed Chitty the message when I came back downstairs. It's her. He confirmed. But Mom, if she says come alone, then I go alone. I checked the time. That gives me 3 hours. I need to prepare. Prepare how? I need to know everything about Zara. Where she came from. What her real qualifications are. How she met your father. I pulled out my laptop. And I need to find out if there are other victims. Other mistakes she's made. I'll help. We spent the next 3 hours digging. Chitty used his military access to pull incident reports from the base. I used social media, public records, anything I could find online about Zara. What we found was disturbing. Zara Al-Yamide. Age 38. No nursing degree. No medical training at all beyond a basic first aid certification. She'd worked as a pharmaceutical sales rep before meeting Obi at a medical conference 3 years ago. She'd been selling him on a new drug line. He'd been buying more than pharmaceuticals. The incident reports were worse. In 6 months, there had been 3 major mistakes. Emeka's case was the most serious, but there had been others. A misdiagnosed infection that had turned septic. A medication error that had sent a soldier into anaphylactic shock. Each time, other staff had caught the mistake in time. Each time, it had been written off as stress, fatigue, or simple human error. But there was a pattern. And patterns told a story. Mom. Chitty looked up from his laptop, his face pale. There's something else. A complaint filed 2 months ago by a private Bukola Adeyemi. She claimed that Nurse Okonkwo, that Zara, had been inappropriate with her. Sexually harassed her during an examination. My stomach turned. What happened with the complaint? It was dismissed. Insufficient evidence. But look at who dismissed it. He turned his laptop toward me. The signature on the dismissal form was clear, Colonel Nnamdi Okafor, with a recommendation from the base's legal counsel. Who was the legal counsel? Chitty scrolled down. My blood went cold. Captain Obi Okonkwo. Your father. The pieces were falling into place. Obi hadn't just given Zara my credentials. He'd protected her. Used his position to cover up her mistakes. Dismissed complaints. Ensured that nothing could touch her. He'd weaponized his authority to enable fraud. I need to go. I stood up, grabbing my purse. Lieutenant Okeke needs to see this. Be careful, Mom. Chitty hugged me tight. If Dad's involved this deeply, he's not going to let this go without a fight. I know. But I wasn't scared anymore. I was angry. And anger, I was learning, was a much more useful emotion than fear. Mom and Ngozi's kitchen was a small restaurant 10 minutes from the base, the kind of place where soldiers went for home cooking when they were missing their families. It smelled like jollof rice and plantains, warmth and comfort. Lieutenant Chioma Okeke was already there, sitting in a corner booth. She was older than me by maybe 10 years, with gray threading through her tightly braided hair and eyes that missed nothing. Mrs. Okonkwo. She didn't stand, just gestured to the seat across from her. Or should I call you something else? Since apparently there are 2 of you. I sat down. You can call me Amara. Amara. She studied me with an intensity that made me understand why she'd survived 30 years in the military. I knew something was wrong the moment I saw her. The woman claiming to be you. Why didn't you report it? I did. To Colonel Okafor. He told me I was mistaken, that you'd simply aged well, and I was remembering you wrong. She leaned back. But I'm not in the habit of being wrong, Mrs. Okonkwo. I worked with you 15 years ago. 3 months, when you were covering for a colleague on maternity leave. You were good. Competent. Confident. She paused. That woman at the base? She's none of those things. I pulled out the folder Chitty and I had compiled. Everything we'd found. The incident reports. Zara's lack of credentials. The dismissed complaint. Chioma read through it all, her expression growing darker with each page. Jesus Christ. She looked up. Your husband did this? My husband and his mistress. I kept my voice steady. And now I need to stop them before someone else gets hurt. You understand what you're asking? If we expose this, there will be an investigation. Court-martials. Criminal charges. She fixed me with that penetrating stare. Your husband will go to prison. His mistress too. And you'll be dragged through all of it. Every detail of your marriage will be examined. Every failure will be made public. I know. And you're willing to do that? I thought about Emeka, bleeding out while Zara panicked. About Private Adeyemi, harassed and dismissed. About every soldier who'd trusted the woman wearing my face, my name, my credentials. I'm willing. Chioma nodded slowly. Then we'd better make sure we do this right. She pulled out her own phone. I've been documenting irregularities for the past month. Nothing I could prove, but enough to make me suspicious. If we combine what I have with what you've found, we can build a case. We can bury them. Chioma's smile was sharp. But we need one more thing. We need Zara to make a mistake. A big one. One that can't be explained away or covered up. How do we do that? Chioma's smile widened. We give her a test. A patient she can't handle. A situation that requires real medical knowledge. And we watch her fail. My heart was pounding. That's risky. Someone could get hurt. Not if we control the situation. Not if we're ready to step in. Chioma leaned forward. Mrs. Okonkwo, Amara, I've been doing this a long time. Trust me when I say I won't let anyone get hurt. But we need to catch her in the act, with witnesses, with evidence that can't be disputed. When? Tomorrow. There's a training exercise scheduled. High-stress scenario, simulated casualties. All medical staff will be evaluated, including your imposter. She'll be put in a position where she has to demonstrate competency. And when she can't, then we have her. I thought about it for maybe 3 seconds. Then I nodded. Okay, but I want to be there. You can't. You're not authorized base access. Then authorize me. I held her gaze. This is my life she's stolen. My reputation on the line. I deserve to watch her fall. Chioma considered. Then she pulled out a form. Sign this. It's a temporary consultant authorization. Officially, you're there to observe the training exercise and provide expert feedback. Unofficially, I'm there to watch justice happen. She handed me a pen. Welcome back to active duty, Nurse Okonkwo. The real one. You gather evidence, you prove systematic fraud, and you make sure everyone knows you're the victim here too. But you have to be smart about it. Document everything. Get witness statements. Build an airtight case. How long will that take? If you're thorough? A week, maybe 2. I don't have 2 weeks. If Obi warns Zara, she could disappear. Destroy evidence. I need to move now. Then you'd better pray you find something concrete at that base. Because once you make an accusation, you can't take it back. We hung up, and I sat on the edge of the bed, thinking. Ada was right. I needed to be strategic. But strategy took time, and time was a luxury I didn't have. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. This is Lieutenant Chioma Okeke. Your son reached out. I can meet you at 1800 hours. There's a coffee shop off base, Mom and Ngozi's kitchen. Come alone. I showed Chitty the message when I came back downstairs. It's her. He confirmed. But Mom, if she says come alone, then I go alone. I checked the time. That gives me 3 hours. I need to prepare. Prepare how? I need to know everything about Zara. Where she came from. What her real qualifications are. How she met your father. I pulled out my laptop. And I need to find out if there are other victims. Other mistakes she's made. I'll help. We spent the next 3 hours digging. Chitty used his military access to pull incident reports from the base. I used social media, public records, anything I could find online about Zara. What we found was disturbing. Zara Al-Yamid, age 38, no nursing degree, no medical training at all beyond a basic first aid certification. She'd worked as a pharmaceutical sales rep before meeting Obi at a medical conference 3 years ago. She'd been selling him on a new drug line. He'd been buying more than pharmaceuticals. The incident reports were worse. In 6 months, there had been 3 major mistakes. Emeka's case was the most serious, but there had been others. A misdiagnosed infection that had turned septic. A medication error that had sent a soldier into anaphylactic shock. Each time, other staff had caught the mistake in time. Each time, it had been written off as stress, fatigue, or simple human error. But there was a pattern. And patterns told a story. Mom. Chitty looked up from his laptop, his face pale. There's something else. A complaint filed 2 months ago by a private Bukola Adeyemi. She claimed that Nurse Okonkwo, that Zara, had been inappropriate with her. Sexually harassed her during an examination. My stomach turned. What happened with the complaint? It was dismissed. Insufficient evidence. But look at who dismissed it. He turned his laptop toward me. The signature on the dismissal form was clear, Colonel Nnamdi Okafor, with a recommendation from the base's legal counsel. Who was the legal counsel? Chitty scrolled down. My blood went cold. Captain Obi Okonkwo. Your father. The pieces were falling into place. Obi hadn't just given Zara my credentials. He'd protected her. Used his position to cover up her mistakes. Dismissed complaints. Ensured that nothing could touch her. He'd weaponized his authority to enable fraud. I need to go. I stood up, grabbing my purse. Lieutenant Okeke needs to see this. Be careful, Mom. Chitty hugged me tight. If Dad's involved this deeply, he's not going to let this go without a fight. I know. But I wasn't scared anymore. I was angry. And anger, I was learning, was a much more useful emotion than fear. Mama Ngozi's kitchen was a small restaurant 10 minutes from the base, the kind of place where soldiers went for home cooking when they were missing their families. It smelled like jollof rice and plantains, warmth and comfort. Lieutenant Chioma Okeke was already there, sitting in a corner booth. She was older than me by maybe 10 years, with gray threading through her tightly braided hair and eyes that missed nothing. Mrs. Okonkwo. She didn't stand, just gestured to the seat across from her. Or should I call you something else? Since apparently there are 2 of you. I sat down. You can call me Amara. Amara. She studied me with an intensity that made me understand why she'd survived 30 years in the military. I knew something was wrong the moment I saw her. The woman claiming to be you. Why didn't you report it? I did. To Colonel Okafor. He told me I was mistaken, that you'd simply aged well, and I was remembering you wrong. She leaned back. But I'm not in the habit of being wrong, Mrs. Okonkwo. I worked with you 15 years ago. 3 months, when you were covering for a colleague on maternity leave. You were good. Competent. Confident. She paused. That woman at the base? She's none of those things. I pulled out the folder Chitty and I had compiled. Everything we'd found. The incident reports. Zara's lack of credentials. The dismissed complaint. Chioma read through it all, her expression growing darker with each page. Jesus Christ. She looked up. Your husband did this? My husband and his mistress. I kept my voice steady. And now I need to stop them before someone else gets hurt. You understand what you're asking? If we expose this, there will be an investigation. Court-martials. Criminal charges. She fixed me with that penetrating stare. Your husband will go to prison. His mistress too. And you'll be dragged through all of it. Every detail of your marriage will be examined. Every failure will be made public. I know. And you're willing to do that? I thought about Emeka, bleeding out while Zara panicked. About Private Adeyemi, harassed and dismissed. About every soldier who'd trusted the woman wearing my face, my name, my credentials. I'm willing. Chioma nodded slowly. Then we'd better make sure we do this right. She pulled out her own phone. I've been documenting irregularities for the past month. Nothing I could prove, but enough to make me suspicious. If we combine what I have with what you've found, we can build a case. We can bury them. Chioma's smile was sharp. But we need one more thing. We need Zara to make a mistake. A big one. One that can't be explained away or covered up. How do we do that? Chioma's smile widened. We give her a test. A patient she can't handle. A situation that requires real medical knowledge. And we watch her fail. My heart was pounding. That's risky. Someone could get hurt. Not if we control the situation. Not if we're ready to step in. Chioma leaned forward. Mrs. Okonkwo, Amara, I've been doing this a long time. Trust me when I say I won't let anyone get hurt. But we need to catch her in the act, with witnesses, with evidence that can't be disputed. When? Tomorrow. There's a training exercise scheduled. High-stress scenario, simulated casualties. All medical staff will be evaluated, including your imposter. She'll be put in a position where she has to demonstrate competency. And when she can't, then we have her. I thought about it for maybe 3 seconds. Then I nodded. Okay, but I want to be there. You can't. You're not authorized base access. Then authorize me. I held her gaze. This is my life she's stolen. My reputation on the line. I deserve to watch her fall. Chioma considered. Then she pulled out a form. Sign this. It's a temporary consultant authorization. Officially, you're there to observe the training exercise and provide expert feedback. Unofficially, I'm there to watch justice happen. She handed me a pen. Welcome back to active duty, Nurse Okonkwo. The real one. I signed my name, my real name, and felt something shift inside me. For 6 months, I'd been a ghost in my own life. Invisible. Erased. Tomorrow, I would become visible again. And Zara Al-Yamide would learn that some identities couldn't be stolen. Some identities had to be earned. I didn't sleep that night either. But this time, it wasn't because of heartbreak or shock. It was anticipation. Strategy. The careful planning of someone who'd been backed into a corner and had finally decided to fight back. Chitty sat with me at the kitchen table, both of us going over the plan again and again until it was burned into our minds. You'll stay in the observation room. He traced the layout he'd drawn on a notepad. Behind one-way glass. You'll be able to see everything, but she won't know you're there. And if something goes wrong? If she actually manages to handle the situation? Then we wait for the next opportunity. But his tone suggested he didn't believe that would happen. Mom, I've seen her work. Or try to work. She's memorized enough medical terminology to sound convincing in casual conversation, but under pressure, she falls apart. What about your father? He's been reassigned to legal review meetings all day tomorrow. Lieutenant Okeke made sure of it. He won't be anywhere near the training exercise. And Colonel Okafor will be there observing, along with 2 other superior officers and a medical review board. Chioma's fingers tightened on his mug. She's been building support quietly, planting questions, making sure the right people are paying attention tomorrow. It felt like a trap closing. Precise. Calculated. And yet part of me still felt uneasy. Chitty, I started slowly. What if this destroys her completely? What if? She almost killed Emeka. His voice was flat. She harassed Private Adeyemi. She's been practicing medicine without a license for 6 months, putting soldiers at risk every single day. He met my eyes. I know you, Mom. I know you don't want to hurt anyone. But this isn't about revenge. It's about stopping someone dangerous before more people get hurt. He was right. I knew he was right. But 25 years of being the peacemaker, the one who smoothed things over and kept everyone comfortable, was hard to shake off. You're too good, Chitty said softly, reading my face. That's always been Dad's advantage over you. He'll do whatever it takes to win. You'll do whatever's right. And sometimes, he's made you think those things are the same. Not anymore. Good. He stood up, collecting our mugs. Because tomorrow, you need to be ready to watch her fail. And you can't feel guilty about it. I won't. But even as I said it, I wondered if it was true. The military base looked different in the morning light. Imposing. Official. I'd been here only a handful of times over the years, Chitty's commissioning, a few family days, Ceremonies where I'd stood in the crowd and clapped proudly while Obi sat beside me, his hand in mine. Had Zara been there too? Standing in the shadows, watching me, studying me, preparing to become me? Lieutenant Okeke met us at the gate. She was in full uniform, her bearing military perfect. She handed me a visitor's badge and a clipboard. "You're Dr. Amara Okonkwo's civilian medical consultant," she said loudly enough for the guard to hear. "Here to observe training protocols and provide expert analysis." The guard barely glanced at my ID before waving us through. We walked across the compound in silence. Soldiers jogged past in formation. Vehicles rumbled by. Everything was order and discipline and purpose. Everything I'd given up to become someone's wife. The medical facility was a low, sprawling building near the center of the base. Inside, it smelled like antiseptic and floor polish. Familiar. I'd spent years in hospitals before Chitty was born, back when I'd had an identity beyond mother and wife. How many times had I thought about coming back? How many times had I pushed the thought away, telling myself I was needed at home more? This way. Chioma led us down a corridor, past examination rooms and supply closets. At the end of the hall was a door marked Observation Deck. She opened it. Inside was a small room with a long window overlooking a larger training space below. The window was one-way glass, just as Chitty had said. I could see everything. They couldn't see me. The training area had been set up to look like a disaster zone. Overturned equipment. Smoke machines creating haze. Medical dummies positioned as casualties. And staff moving through pre-exercise checks. Then I saw her. Zara was wearing scrubs, my scrubs, the ones I'd left in storage. She had a stethoscope around her neck. My stethoscope, the one Obi had given me when I graduated nursing school. She was talking to another nurse, laughing at something, completely at ease. She looked like she belonged there. For a moment, doubt crept in. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe she actually had learned enough. Maybe. Then I saw her checking a medical kit, and she picked up a laryngoscope blade, frowned at it, and put it back in the wrong section. A basic piece of equipment, and she didn't know where it went. "She's been faking it the entire time," Chioma said quietly beside me. "Getting by on charm and other people's competence. But today, she'll have to perform alone." Below, Colonel Okafor entered the training area. He was a tall man, late 50s, with the kind of presence that commanded immediate respect. Two other officers flanked him, along with 3 civilians I assumed were the medical review board. "This is a high-level evaluation," Chioma explained. "Standard protocol review. Happens once a quarter. But I made sure this one was particularly comprehensive. Attention!" Colonel Okafor's voice carried easily. "Today's exercise will test emergency response capabilities under combat conditions. We have 4 simulated casualties with varying degrees of trauma. Medical staff will be evaluated on triage, treatment protocols, and teamwork." He paused. "This is a pass-fail exercise. Those who do not meet standards will be removed from active duty pending review." I saw Zara's smile falter. "Just for a second. Staff will be divided into teams." Colonel Okafor continued. "Each team takes 1 casualty. Your decisions will be monitored and recorded." He gestured to cameras mounted around the space. "Begin." The simulation started with sudden chaos. Alarms blaring. Smoke filling the space. Soldiers acting as casualties began shouting for help. Zara was assigned to a soldier with a simulated chest wound, the exact type of injury Emeka had sustained. My heart rate picked up as I watched her approach. She knelt down, looked at the wound, and froze. "Come on," Chioma muttered. "You've done this before. Or you're supposed to have done this before." Zara's hands were shaking as she reached for supplies. She grabbed gauze, started to apply pressure, then hesitated. The casualty, a young private playing his role well, was shouting in simulated pain. "I need help," Zara called out. "Doctor. I need a doctor." But there was no doctor. That was the point of the exercise. The medical staff had to handle it. "Nurse Okonkwo." Colonel Okafor's voice was sharp. "Proceed with treatment." Zara looked around wildly. "The bleeding is severe." "I can't." "You can and you will. That's an order." I watched her try to compose herself. Watched her attempt to remember protocols she'd never actually learned. She applied pressure, but in the wrong spot. She called for equipment she didn't need and forgot equipment she did. 2 minutes in, the evaluators were making notes. 5 minutes in, another nurse started moving toward Zara's station. Hold position. Colonel Okafor ordered. Nurse Okonkwo will complete this scenario. But Zara was panicking now. She'd knocked over her medical kit. Supplies scattered. The casualty was still shouting. The monitors showed his simulated vitals dropping. She's going to fail him, Chitty said quietly. In a real situation, he'd be dead. Zara must have realized it too, because she did something desperate. She grabbed her phone. I watched in disbelief as she tried to Google treatment protocols. Right there. In front of the evaluators. In the middle of the exercise. Nurse Okonkwo. Colonel Okafor's voice could have cut steel. Step away from the casualty. Zara looked up, her face streaked with sweat. I just need to confirm. Step away. She stood, swaying slightly. The simulation ended. The casualty stopped screaming. Silence fell over the training area. Colonel Okafor approached Zara with slow, deliberate steps. In your professional assessment, Nurse Okonkwo, how would you evaluate your performance? She swallowed hard. I was flustered. The conditions were difficult. You failed. He said it simply. Completely. You demonstrated insufficient knowledge of basic trauma protocols. You endangered a patient. And you attempted to use your personal device during a medical emergency. He paused. I've been in military medicine for 23 years. I've never seen such gross incompetence from a supposedly experienced emergency nurse. Zara's face went white. I can explain. Please do. Because your record suggests 15 years of nursing experience, with specializations in emergency medicine and trauma care. Yet you performed like someone who'd never treated a chest wound in their life. The training area was silent. Every eye was on Zara. She opened her mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. I've been under a lot of stress lately. Personal issues. This isn't about stress. Lieutenant Okeke stepped forward, her voice carrying clearly. This is about competency. Or lack thereof. She turned to Colonel Okafor. Sir, I'd like to make a formal report. I have reason to believe that the woman standing before you is not, in fact, Nurse Amara Okonkwo. The colonel's expression didn't change, but I saw his eyes sharpen. That's a serious accusation, Lieutenant. I have evidence. Sir. She pulled out a folder, a copy of everything we'd compiled. Incident reports. Zara's lack of credentials. The pattern of mistakes. Colonel Okafor read through it all. The silence stretched. Tightened. Finally, he looked up at Zara. What's your real name? Zara said nothing. I'll ask once more. What is your real name? Her chin lifted in defiance. Zara Alyamide. Gasps from the staff around them. Whispers. And what are your actual medical qualifications, Ms. Alyamide? Silence. None. A new voice. I turned and saw Ada walking into the training area, carrying her own folder. Zara Alyamide has no nursing degree, no medical license, no certification of any kind beyond basic first aid. She looked at Zara with disgust. She's been committing identity theft and practicing medicine illegally for 6 months. Who are you? Colonel Okafor demanded. Nurse practitioner Adiz Nwosu. I'm the former supervisor of the real Amara Okonkwo. And I can prove everything. Ada spread documents across the nearest table. My actual nursing records. My license information. Photos of me from 15 years ago that clearly showed the difference between me and Zara. Then where is the real Nurse Okonkwo? Colonel Okafor asked. Chioma looked up at the observation window. Pointed. She's right there. Every head turned toward the glass. Toward me. My heart pounded. This was it. The moment I stepped out of invisibility. I left the observation room and walked down the stairs, into the training area. Every step felt like reclaiming ground I'd lost. Every breath felt like coming back to life. When I entered the training space, the room fell silent. Zara stared at me like she was seeing a ghost. And maybe she was. The ghost of the woman she'd tried to erase. I walked straight to Colonel Okafor and extended my hand. Colonel, I'm Amara Okonkwo. The real one. He shook my hand slowly, his eyes moving between me and Zara. Mrs. Okonkwo, can you explain what's happening here? I can. I turned to face Zara. 6 months ago, my husband, Captain Obi Okonkwo, gave this woman my personal documents, my nursing credentials, and my identity. She's been using them to practice medicine at this facility, putting soldiers' lives at risk. Zara started, but I cut her off. 3 weeks ago, she nearly let Private First Class Emeka Adebayo bleed out because she didn't know how to treat a chest wound. She's made medication errors, misdiagnosed infections, filed false medical reports, all under my name. You can't prove any of that. Zara's voice shook. Actually, I can. Ada stepped forward. Every medical decision made under Amara Okonkwo's credentials in the past 6 months has been documented. Every mistake. Every near miss. Every protocol violation. I pulled the records yesterday. She handed another folder to Colonel Okafor. The real Amara Okonkwo hasn't worked at this facility in 15 years. Every signature, every report, every treatment plan from the past 6 months is fraudulent. The colonel's face was stone as he read. Sir. Chitty stepped forward, and my heart clenched. If I may speak. Proceed, Private. The woman who's been impersonating my mother almost killed my best friend. Emeka Adebayo is still recovering from wounds that would have been fatal if Lieutenant Okeke hadn't intervened. His voice was steady but hard. I've been gathering testimony from other soldiers who were treated by her. Men and women who received substandard care, who were misdiagnosed, who suffered because she didn't have the knowledge or skill to do the job she claimed she could do. He handed over his own folder. Witness statements. Medical records. A timeline of incidents. Colonel Okafor looked at Zara. Do you deny these allegations? She said nothing, but her silence was answer enough. Captain Obi Okonkwo. The colonel's voice carried through the space like a whip crack. Report to this location immediately. Within minutes, Obi arrived. He walked in with confidence, but it evaporated the moment he saw me standing there. Saw Zara surrounded by evidence. Saw the trap he'd walked into. Colonel. He tried for authority. What's going on here? Colonel Okafor's expression could have frozen fire. Captain, did you provide unauthorized access to military facilities and medical credentials to a civilian contractor? Obi's eyes darted between me and Zara. I can explain. Did you falsify documentation to allow Ms. Zara Oyamide to impersonate a licensed medical professional? There were extenuating circumstances. Did you use your position as legal counsel to dismiss complaints and cover up medical errors made by Ms. Oyamide? Obi's face went gray. Sir, Yes or no, Captain? The silence was deafening. Yes. Obi's voice was barely a whisper. Yes, I did. The room exploded in whispers. Shock. Anger. Betrayal. Colonel Okafor held up his hand for silence. Captain Obi Okonkwo, you are hereby relieved of duty pending court-martial. Security, place him under arrest. 2 MPs moved forward. Obi didn't resist as they cuffed his hands behind his back. Ms. Zara Oyamide. The colonel turned to her. You are under arrest for identity theft, fraud, and practicing medicine without a license. Additional charges will be forthcoming pending full investigation. Zara's defiance crumbled. She looked at me, and for a moment, I saw something almost like regret in her eyes. I didn't want it to be like this, she said softly. I just needed a chance. A fresh start. You stole my life for a fresh start. My voice was steady. You put soldiers at risk. You nearly killed a young man. You destroyed a family. And for what? A job you weren't qualified to do? I loved him. Her voice broke. I thought if I could just be good enough, prove I was worthy, he'd what? Choose you over his wife? I stepped closer. He chose you 3 years ago, Zara. You already won. But that wasn't enough, was it? You didn't just want his love. You wanted to be me. Tears streamed down her face, but I felt nothing. No sympathy. No forgiveness. Just cold, clear justice. The MPs cuffed her and led her away. She didn't look back. Obi did, though. As they took him past me, he stopped. Amara. His voice cracked. I'm sorry. I never meant for it to go this far. You're sorry? I looked at the man I'd spent 25 years with. You destroyed our marriage. You betrayed our son. You enabled someone to commit crimes in my name. And you're sorry? What else can I say? Nothing. There's nothing you can say that will fix this. I held his gaze. You made me invisible, Obi. You erased me. And you know what? It was the best thing you ever did for me. Because it forced me to remember who I was before I became your wife. Before I became someone's mother. I was Amara. I was strong. I was capable. And I'm taking that back. He opened his mouth, but the MP pulled him forward. I watched him go and felt something inside me settle. Not happiness. Not satisfaction. Just closure. Mrs. Okonkwo. Colonel Okafor approached. I owe you an apology. This should never have happened under my command. You couldn't have known. I should have known. He looked genuinely troubled. The signs were there. The irregularities. I chose to ignore my instincts. And soldiers suffered for it. What happens now? Full investigation. Court-martial for your husband and Ms. Alyamide. And he paused. We need to review every medical case she touched. Make sure no other errors were missed. I can help with that, I said. If you'll have me. His eyebrows rose. You want to work here? After everything? I want to make sure no soldier suffers because of what was done in my name. I met his eyes. I gave up nursing 15 years ago. Maybe it's time I came back. A slow smile crossed his face. I think that can be arranged. We have an opening for a senior trauma nurse. He glanced at where Zara had stood. If you're interested. I am. Then welcome to the team. The real team. 3 months later, I stood in the military hospital's staff room, pinning my name badge to my new uniform. Amara Okonkwo, RN, Senior Trauma Specialist. It felt like coming home. How does it feel? Chioma asked, coming up beside me. Strange. Good. Terrifying. I smiled. All of the above. You earned this. She squeezed my shoulder. You saved lives by stopping her. And now you'll save more by being here. Through the window, I could see soldiers moving through the compound. Among them was Emeka, fully recovered, back on active duty. He'd come to see me last week, had stood in my office with tears in his eyes and thanked me for saving his life by stopping the person who'd nearly killed him. I'd hugged him and told him he was going to be fine, that he was strong, that he was a survivor. I'd been talking to him, but I'd also been talking to myself. Mom. Chitty appeared in the doorway, also in uniform. Ready for your first day? As ready as I'll ever be. We walked together toward the emergency ward. As we passed a bulletin board, I saw a newspaper clipping someone had posted. The headline read, Military Captain and Accomplice Sentenced in Identity Theft Scandal. Obi had gotten 12 years. Zara had gotten 15, plus permanent revocation of any possibility of obtaining medical credentials. The scandal had made national news. My name, my real story, had been everywhere. For a week, I'd been terrified. Exposed. Humiliated. Then the messages started coming. From women who'd lost themselves in marriages. From mothers who'd sacrificed careers. From people who'd been made invisible and were finding their way back. They told me I was brave. That I'd inspired them. That my story had given them permission to reclaim their own identities. I didn't feel brave. I felt like someone who'd simply stopped accepting less than she deserved. But maybe that was the same thing. Nurse Okonkwo. A young medic approached me urgently. We have incoming. Training accident. Multiple casualties. My pulse jumped. Then training kicked in. How many? 3. Possible fractures, 1 severe laceration. I'm on it. I turned to Chitty. Go. I'll be fine. I know you will. He smiled. You always have been. I headed toward the emergency bay, my team falling in behind me. And as I walked, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Purpose. Clarity. Power. I was visible again. But more than that, I was whole. The doors opened, and I stepped into the organized chaos of emergency medicine. Shouting. Movement. Life and death balanced on the edge of a scalpel. And I knew exactly what to do. Because I wasn't playing house anymore. I wasn't supporting someone else's dreams or living in someone else's shadow. I was Amara Okonkwo. Nurse. Mother. Survivor. And I was exactly where I belonged. 6 months later, the conference room was packed. I'd been asked to speak at a women's leadership symposium on base, something I never would have imagined doing a year ago. But a year ago, I'd been a different person. I stood at the podium, looking out at the faces. Young women in uniform. Older women with decades of service. Wives and mothers and daughters and sisters. All of them looking for something. Maybe the same thing I'd been looking for. Permission to be seen. A year ago, I began. I didn't exist. The room went quiet. Oh, I was physically present. I cooked meals. I cleaned houses. I attended events. But I wasn't visible. Not really. I'd spent 25 years making myself smaller so someone else could be bigger. I'd erased my own identity so completely that someone else was able to step into it and nobody even noticed. I paused, letting that sink in. I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I'm telling you this because I know I'm not alone. I see you out there. The women who put careers on hold. Who sacrifice dreams for partnerships. Who make themselves invisible because you're told that's what love requires. Heads were nodding. Some women had tears in their eyes. But here's what I learned. Real love doesn't ask you to disappear. Real love doesn't require you to be less so someone else can be more. Real love sees you. Values you. Celebrates you. My voice grew stronger. And if you find yourself in a situation where you're invisible, where you've been erased, I want you to know something. You can come back. You can reclaim yourself. It won't be easy. It will hurt. It will cost you things you thought mattered. But on the other side of that pain is something incredible. You. The applause started small, then built. Women were standing. Some were crying openly. After the presentation, a young private approached me. She couldn't have been more than 22, with nervous eyes and hands that twisted together. Mrs. Okonkwo? My boyfriend wants me to leave the military. He says if I really loved him, I'd choose him over my career. I looked at her, really looked at her. Saw myself at that age. Saw all the choices I'd made that had led me to that living room, to that moment of erasure. What do you want to do? I asked gently. I want to serve. Her voice was small but certain. I want to finish my contract. Maybe re-enlist. Maybe make a career of this. Then that's what you should do. But if I lose him, if he truly loves you, you won't lose him. And if you do lose him? I put my hand on her shoulder. Then you've lost someone who was willing to let you disappear. Someone who wanted you small. And you deserve so much more than that. She nodded, tears spilling over. Thank you. As she walked away, I felt Chitty beside me. That was good advice, he said quietly. Hard-earned advice. He put his arm around my shoulders. I'm proud of you, Mom. For everything. For fighting back. For not letting them win. I leaned into him, this young man I'd raised. This soldier who'd seen his mother at her lowest and had never doubted her strength. I'm proud of us both, I said. We stood together, watching the crowd disperse. Somewhere out there, Obi was in a military prison, probably still convinced he was the victim in all this. Somewhere, Zara was in a different prison, perhaps finally understanding that you couldn't build a life on someone else's foundation. But I wasn't thinking about them. I was thinking about the woman I'd been. The woman I'd become. The journey between the two. Mrs. Okonkwo? Another voice. I turned to see a man in civilian clothes, maybe 45, with kind eyes and a slight smile. I'm Dr. Kwame Mensah. I'm the new Psychological Services Coordinator on base. Nice to meet you. I heard your presentation. It was remarkable. He paused. I wondered if you might have time for coffee sometime. I'm trying to develop better support systems for military families, and I think your perspective would be invaluable. There was something in the way he looked at me. Not assessing. Not judging. Just seeing. I'd be happy to help. He smiled. It's a date. Then caught himself. I mean, a meeting. A professional meeting. I found myself smiling back. Actually, a date sounds nice too. His eyebrows rose. Really? Really. But slow. I'm still figuring out who I am without being someone's wife. I can do slow. He pulled out a card. Call me when you're ready. After he left, Chitty was grinning. Mom, did you just? Don't. I held up my hand, but I was smiling too. Not a word. You got a date. It's just coffee. It's a start. And maybe it was. Maybe after everything, the betrayal, the pain, the fight to reclaim myself, maybe I was ready to start writing a new chapter. One where I got to define myself. Where I chose my own path. Where I was visible not because someone else allowed it, but because I demanded it. Ready to go home? Chitty asked. Home. I thought about the house that used to feel like a prison. In the months since Obi left, I'd redecorated. Painted walls. Rearranged furniture. Made it mine. Yeah, I'm ready. We walked out into the evening air. The base was quieting down, soldiers heading to barracks or family housing. The sky was turning purple and gold, that perfect moment between day and night. And I realized something. For the first time in 25 years, I wasn't afraid of the dark. Because I'd already survived it. I'd walked through the deepest betrayal, the most complete erasure, and I'd come out the other side. Not unchanged. Not unmarked. But unbroken. Mom? Chitty's voice pulled me back. You okay? I looked at my son. At the base around us. At the life I'd built from the ashes of the one that had burned down. Yeah. I smiled. I really am. And as we drove away, I caught a glimpse of myself in the rearview mirror. Not the invisible woman I'd been. Not the ghost in her own life. Just Amara. Whole. Visible. Free. And that was more than enough. 1 year later. The commendation ceremony was smaller than I'd expected. Just Colonel Okafor, a few staff members, and Chitty standing at attention in the front row. For exceptional service and dedication to military medicine. The colonel read from the certificate. For integrity in the face of personal adversity. And for ensuring the safety and well-being of all personnel under your care, it is my honor to present you with the Humanitarian Service Medal. He pinned it to my uniform, and I felt the weight of it. Not just the physical weight, but everything it represented. This wasn't just about stopping Zara. It was about every patient I'd helped in the year since. Every protocol I'd improved. Every young nurse I'd mentored. It was about becoming someone worth seeing. After the ceremony, Emeka approached me. He was walking without difficulty now, his recovery complete. Thank you, he said simply. For everything. You don't have to keep thanking me. Yeah, I do. He smiled. You saved my life twice. Once by stopping her, and once by being here when I needed someone who actually knew what they were doing. I hugged him. You're going to be fine, Emeka. Better than fine. Because of you. No. I pulled back. Because you're strong. You're a survivor. I just helped you remember that. After he left, I found Chitty waiting outside. Big day, he said. Just another day. Mom, you got a medal. I've got something better. I linked my arm through his. I've got my son. My career. My identity. That's worth more than any medal. We started walking toward the parking lot, and I saw Kwame waiting by his car. We'd been dating for 6 months now, real dating, the kind where two whole people chose to spend time together without either one disappearing into the relationship. It was terrifying and wonderful and completely different from anything I'd known before. Ready for dinner? He called. Starving. Chitty hugged me goodbye. I'm proud of you, Mom. Every single day. I love you, baby. Love you too. I watched him drive away, this young man who'd stood by me through everything. Who'd never doubted me. Who'd helped me remember who I was when I'd forgotten. Then I turned to Kwame, who was smiling at me with that expression that said he saw me. Really saw me. You look happy, he said. I am. And I was. Not because everything was perfect. Not because all the pain had disappeared. But because I'd fought my way back to myself and I'd won. I was Amara Okonkwo. And I was finally, beautifully, undeniably visible. If you're watching this and you see yourself in my story, if you've ever felt invisible, erased, or lost in someone else's life, I want you to know something. You can come back. It won't be easy. It will require courage you didn't know you had. It will cost you things you thought were permanent. But on the other side of that pain is you. The real you. The whole you. And you are worth fighting for. She stands, straightening her uniform. Thank you for listening to my story. If it moved you, if it helped you, if it made you think about your own life differently, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below telling me where you're watching from and what part of this journey resonated with you most. And if you want to hear more stories like this, stories of survival, resilience, and reclaiming power, please like this video and subscribe to Aunty Mea's Voice. Because these stories matter. Your story matters. And you deserve to be seen. She smiles, genuine, warm, powerful. Until next time, remember, you are not invisible. You never were. You've just been waiting for permission to shine. Consider this your permission.